Nepal sits between two giants, India to the south and China to the north. It occupies a narrow slice of Asia, yet it contains some of the greatest vertical relief on Earth, from subtropical plains to the highest summit ever climbed. How can a country smaller than many single states hold so much height, history, and risk? Nepal rises fast. In less than 200 kilometers, the land lifts from river-fed lowlands to permanent ice. The ascent is abrupt.
So if you want more journeys into the unforgiving, the beautiful, and the unknown, subscribe. Hit that button and join us as we explore the places that don't fit on postcards.
Almost violent. Here, the planet's crust is still moving, still colliding, still climbing. The Indian plate continues to press north, sliding under Eurasia, forcing the Himalaya upward by millimeters each year. Not metaphorical growth, measured uplift. The journey begins in the Terai, a flat, humid belt along Nepal's southern edge. This is where the country feeds itself. Rice paddies, sugarcane, mustard fields. The heat is heavy. The rivers are wide, brown, and slow, descendants of glacial melt far above. These plains feel closer to northern India than to the world of snow that defines Nepal's image. And yet, everything here depends on what happens in the mountains. Leaving the lowlands, the road begins to climb. Switchbacks cut into green hills. The air thins slightly. Forests tighten around the valleys. This middle belt, the hills and mid-mountains, is where most Nepalis live, not because it is easy, but because it is survivable. Here stands the capital, Kathmandu, inside a bowl-shaped valley once filled by an ancient lake. Kathmandu is old, older than many European capitals. A crossroads of trade, religion, and empire long before modern borders existed. Temples crowd narrow streets. Wooden windows are carved like lace. Bricks are darkened by centuries of incense smoke and monsoon rain. This valley was once a hub on trans-Himalayan trade routes linking Tibet to the plains of India. Salt moved south. Grain moved north. Ideas moved both ways. The city carries layers. Hindu shrines beside Buddhist stupas. Kings' palaces beside earthquake scars. Nepal is one of the few places where Hinduism and Buddhism developed not just side by side, but intertwined. The Buddha himself was born here in Lumbini on the southern plains. Pilgrims still arrive from across Asia, walking slowly through gardens built to quiet the mind. But Kathmandu also sits on danger. The valley rests atop an active fault system. Earthquakes are not hypothetical. They are remembered. In 2015, the ground broke violently, collapsing temples and homes, killing thousands. The scars remain. So does rebuilding. Stone by stone, beam by beam. Beyond the valley, the land sharpens. Roads narrow. Villages cling to ridgelines. Terrace fields stair-step down impossibly steep slopes. Farming here is vertical labor. Every harvest is earned by hand. There are no wide machines, no shortcuts, just gravity and effort. Then the mountains truly arrive. The greater Himalaya, a wall of rock and ice stretching the length of the country. 8 of the world's 14 peaks, over 8,000 meters, rise within Nepal's borders. The most famous of them all, Mount Everest, stands on the northern frontier. Everest is not a single peak in isolation. It is part of a vast system of ridges, glaciers, and valleys that grind slowly downward. The Khumbu icefall shifts daily. Crevasses open without warning. The mountain kills quietly and often. And yet, people live here. The Sherpa homeland lies in these high valleys. Despite the myth, Sherpa is not a job. It is an ethnic group shaped by altitude and endurance. For generations, they traded across high passes into Tibet. Today, many work in mountaineering, carrying loads through terrain where oxygen is thin and mistakes are final. Their labor supports the global obsession with summits. Their villages sit beneath them. Life at altitude is precise. Short growing seasons, stone houses, yaks instead of cattle. Fuel is scarce. Every object has value. And yet, prayer flags line ridges, snapping the wind, carrying mantras across the valleys. Spiritual life here is not abstract. It is practical, a way to face risk that never goes away. Moving west, the terrain changes again. The mountains break into deep gorges carved by rivers that will eventually feed the Ganges. Hydropower potential is immense, but development is slow. Nepal has water in abundance, yet electricity shortages remain common. Infrastructure struggles against landslides, politics, and sheer verticality. History presses in here as well. Nepal was never formally colonized. It survived the age of empires by isolation, diplomacy, and terrain. British forces fought Gurkha soldiers in the early 19th century and chose alliance over occupation. That legacy persists. Nepali soldiers still serve abroad, known for discipline and resilience forged in mountains. In the 20th century, isolation began to crack. Roads crept inward. Airstrips appeared on ridgelines. Tourism followed. Trekking routes became economic lifelines. Foreign currency flowed in, unevenly distributed, fragile to global shocks. Then came political upheaval. A monarchy that lasted centuries collapsed in the early 21st century. Civil war left deep wounds in rural areas. Nepal emerged as a republic still searching for stability. Federalism, identity, and development remain unresolved questions. And yet, people live here. Markets open every morning. Children walk hours to school. Buses crawl along cliff edges with alarming calm. Life continues in spaces that outsiders call extreme. The far west grows drier. Rain shadows appear. Villages thin out. Here, roads may vanish entirely during monsoon season. Isolation is seasonal, sometimes total. Returning east, the landscape softens again before rising once more. The Annapurna region holds some of the world's deepest valleys. In places, the difference between river and summit exceeds the depth of the Grand Canyon. The scale is difficult to grasp. Human figures shrink to specks. Nepal's wildlife survives in fragments. Rhinos and tigers still roam protected lowland parks. Snow leopards move unseen at altitude. Conservation is a constant negotiation between survival and protection. Land is scarce. Needs are immediate. Monsoon defines a calendar. Clouds roll north from the Bay of Bengal, colliding with the Himalaya and emptying themselves. Landslides follow. Rivers swell. Fields flood. When the rains retreat, dust returns. Cycles repeat. Religion weaves through everything. Not loudly, constantly. Morning bells, evening lamps. Cremation fires beside rivers that never stop flowing. Death here is visible, public, accepted as part of the terrain. Nepal is not a postcard. It is not only peaks and prayer flags. It is labor, risk, adaptation. A country stretched vertically, carrying history uphill, from the plains where rice grows in standing water, to the ridges where crops cling to stone, to the summits where nothing grows at all. Nepal compresses the planet's extremes into a single line of travel. Few places show so clearly how geography dictates culture, how height shapes belief, how survival becomes tradition. Beyond the noise of summits and statistics, Nepal endures quietly, still rising, still shifting, still lived in. Thanks for watching. See you soon. South of the highest ridges, the mountains loosen their grip, the valleys widen, light softens, and suddenly Nepal feels almost gentle. This is where the lakes appear, where reflections matter, where the mountains stop threatening and start watching. Pokhara rests beneath the Annapurna wall, calm in a way that feels earned. A city built not on command, but on pause. Water gathers here. Clouds linger. The peaks arrive at dawn, then retreat by noon, like performers on a schedule only they know. For centuries, this basin was a waypoint, nothing more. Today, it is a hinge between worlds, the low hills behind, the high trails ahead. From Pokhara, footpaths lead upward into a geography that cannot be rushed. Villages thin out. Languages change within a day's walk. One ridge belongs to one group. The next ridge, another. Nepal is not a single culture stacked vertically. It is dozens layered and interlocked, shaped by isolation. The rivers cut through all of it. They do not meander. They fall. The Kali Gandaki runs between two massive ranges, carving one of the deepest gorges on Earth. Wind screams through it in the afternoon, funneled by stone walls that rise thousands of meters above the riverbed. Villages sit just far enough from the edge to survive. Trade once flowed here. Salt from the north, grain from the south, moved by people who memorize altitude the way sailors memorize stars. Beyond the gorge lies Mustang, a land that looks unfinished. Brown, wind-scoured, almost lunar. Rain barely reaches it. For centuries, it was a kingdom facing Tibet more than Nepal. Monasteries here are not decorative. They are fortresses against erosion, cultural and geological. Change arrives slowly in Mustang. Then all at once, roads appear. Motorcycles replace caravans. Children learn languages their grandparents never needed. The isolation that preserved identity now strains it. This is the quiet cost of connection. Farther east, the terrain tightens again. Steeper, wetter. The hills grow restless under monsoon pressure. Entire slopes slide at night, silently rearranging maps. Villages wake to find fields gone, paths erased. In Nepal, permanence is negotiated daily. The eastern rivers, the Arun, the Tamar, the Sun Koshi, slice through some of the most inaccessible terrain on the continent. No grand highways, no easy airstrips, just footbridges and memory. Communities here live closer to subsistence than statistics admit. Cash is rare. Time is abundant but fragile. And yet, laughter carries far in thin air. Festivals still stop work. Music still travels ridge to ridge. The mountains have not erased joy. They have sharpened it. Nepal's borderlands are not lines. They are gradients. On the northern edge, high passes once functioned as customs posts, migration routes, and escape valves during political upheaval. After 1959, those routes closed. Tibet sealed. Trade collapsed overnight. Entire livelihoods vanished with a single policy shift beyond Nepal's control. To the south, the border with India remains open. People cross daily. Goods flow freely. So do tensions. Nepal's economy leans heavily on remittances. Millions work abroad, sending money home from the Gulf, Southeast Asia, and beyond. Villages are built with foreign wages. Families are sustained by absence. This is modern Nepal, not frozen in time, stretched between leaving and staying. In the cities, this tension is visible. Concrete rises quickly, often faster than regulation. Power lines tangle overhead like afterthoughts. Motorcycles fill streets never designed for them. Urban growth races ahead of planning. Earthquakes do not forgive shortcuts. Education has expanded rapidly. So have expectations. Young Nepalis are connected to the world in ways unimaginable a generation ago. They speak globally. They think outward. And many do not see a future at home. But home still pulls. During festivals, buses overflow. Cities empty. Villages swell again, briefly reclaiming their children. For a few days, the old rhythms return. Then the roads carry them away once more. Nepal's political story remains unfinished. Decentralization promised empowerment, but delivery is uneven. Local governments struggle with capacity. Corruption dulls momentum. Hope rises and falls with elections. Still, the fact remains, decisions are now made inside the country, not imposed from palaces or foreign capitals. Nature continues its own governance. Glaciers retreat. Glacial lakes swell behind unstable moraines. Flood risk increases downstream, invisible until it is catastrophic. Climate change here is not abstract. It arrives as loss of predictability. Planting seasons shift. Snow lines creep upward. Traditional knowledge strains to keep up. And yet, people adapt. They always have. In high villages, solar panels dot rooftops where firewood once dominated. In valleys, community forests regenerate hillsides stripped bare decades earlier. Local conservation models, born in necessity, now influence global thinking. Nepal protects not because it is wealthy, but because it cannot afford not to. There is a humility in this landscape, a sense that humans are tenants, not owners. Even the tallest temples bow to the horizon. As night falls in the hills, the stars return in force. Electric light fades quickly once you leave the roads. The Milky Way reclaims the sky. Silence settles, broken only by rivers far below. Still moving, always moving. Travel in Nepal is not about arrival. It is about adjustment. To altitude, to time, to uncertainty. Plans change. Weather intervenes. Paths disappear. And somehow, this becomes a point. Control loosens. Attention sharpens. You learn to watch clouds, to read the sound of wind, to listen when elders speak slowly, measuring words against experience rather than urgency. Nepal does not explain itself. It does not simplify. It asks something of those who move through it: patience, respect, endurance. At the edge of the country, where the mountains finally descend and rivers spill into the plains, the land exhales. Heat returns. Fields widen. Life spreads out horizontally again. Behind you, the peaks remain, unmoved, still rising imperceptibly. Nepal is not defined by a single summit or valley. It is defined by transition, by movement through extremes, by people who have learned to live inside vertical limits and still look outward. And when you leave, what stays with you is not a view, but a feeling of scale pressing close, of fragility held together by routine, of a place where survival has become culture. The mountains do not say goodbye. They simply remain. Thanks for watching. See you soon. There is another Nepal that rarely makes it into photographs. It lives between departures, in bus stations at dawn, in half-built houses, waiting for money to arrive from somewhere else. Early morning in a hill town. The light is pale. The air smells of dust and tea. People wait without drama. Bags at their feet, documents folded carefully. Someone is always leaving. Migration has become a rhythm, not forced in the old sense, but unavoidable. Farms alone cannot hold families anymore. Education opens doors that the local economy cannot absorb. So the road out becomes part growing up. Parents stay behind. They tend fields, raise grandchildren, keep rituals alive. Homes stretch taller. Extra floors added with remittance money, yet rooms remain empty. Architecture begins to reflect absence. And still, villages do not collapse. They adapt. Women take on new roles. Community groups replace missing labor. Life compresses, reorganizes, continues. Travel east again and the mountains feel different, greener, denser. Here, rainfall feeds forests that seem almost excessive. Paths tunnel through foliage. Leeches cling silently during monsoon months. Everything grows, including difficulty. This is where ethnic diversity becomes impossible to ignore. Nepal holds dozens of languages, many with no written tradition until recently. Identity here is tied to land, to slope, to altitude bands. Culture shifts not across borders, But across footpaths, food changes too. Grain varieties adapt to microclimates. Fermented flavors dominate. Strategies for preservation in places where transport is unreliable. Meals are practical. Calories matter. Waste is unthinkable. Hospital access thins quickly once roads disappear. A minor injury can become a crisis. Birth, illness, death, these are negotiated with distance. Helicopters exist, but only for some. For most, resilient substitutes for infrastructure. And yet, humor persists. Jokes are dry, often self-directed. Laughter echoes easily in mountain air. As you move south again, the heat returns abruptly. The plains feel loud after the quiet of elevation. Here, population density tightens. Fields press against each other. Boundaries matter. The Terai is politically sensitive ground. Historically marginalized, economically vital. Identity here intersects with questions of citizenship, language, and power. Movements rise, recede, rise again. Demands are not abstract. They are tied to land rights, representation, and dignity. Industries cluster where the land allows it. Brick kills fire endlessly, fueled by cheap labor and agricultural waste. Smoke hangs low in winter months, blurring horizons. Urban air becomes a seasonal hazard. Masks become normal long before pandemics. Education remains a great hope. Families invest heavily, sometimes recklessly. Private schools bloom even where roads do not. English is treated as currency, degrees as escape routes. But degrees do not guarantee departure anymore. Global markets shift. Work contracts tighten. Dreams stall. Those who return bring new habits. Different expectations. Sometimes frustration. Sometimes skills that do not fit local demand. Reverse culture shock settles quietly. Nepal's cities absorb this pressure unevenly. Biratnagar hums with factories near the Indian border. But while stretches along highways, neither town nor metropolis. Urban Nepal is a patchwork, not a network. Water becomes a daily negotiation. Pipes run dry. Tankers fill the gap. Those who can pay do. Those who cannot wait. Waste follows a similar logic. Landfills reach capacity. Solutions lag behind growth. The mountains, once symbols of purity, now receive what cities discard. And still, festivals arrive. They always do. For days, routines dissolve. Work pauses. Cities empty. Villages fill. Masks, dances, colors, sacrifices. Each region marking time in its own way. These are not performances for visitors. They are maintenance, cultural upkeep. Nepal's calendar is dense with meaning. So many holy days that the year itself feels layered. Some festivals bind families. Others bind entire regions. A few bind the nation, briefly synchronizing lives that usually move out of phase. Spirituality here is not philosophical. It is transactional. Offerings are made for health, rain, exams, journeys. Faith is woven into logistics. Death, too, is managed publicly. Bodies carried through streets. Rivers receive ash without ceremony beyond presence. Mourning is shared. Private grief still exists, but is not hidden. As roads improve, tourism shifts again. Shorter trips, quicker rewards. Instagram replaces endurance. Remote villages feel this immediately. Traffic spikes, then vanishes. Booms without stability. Some communities resist. Others embrace. Most hedge their bets. There is no single vision of development here. Only negotiations between past and possibility, between land and need. In the far corners, where maps thin and bureaucracy weakens, autonomy increases. Local rules matter more than national ones. Reputation replaces paperwork. Trust becomes infrastructure. Here, stories are long. Memory matters. A dispute can last generations. So can an alliance. Time moves differently. Not slower, just less linear. At high altitude, days are structured by weather. In the plains, by heat. In cities, by electricity schedules. Everyone adapts to something beyond their control. This may be Nepal's defining skill. Adaptation without surrender. Even after disasters, earthquakes, floods, landslides, recovery begins almost immediately. Not because trauma is absent, but because stopping is not an option. Rebuilding is incremental. Temporary becomes permanent. Permanent remains provisional. And perhaps that is the lesson the landscape teaches most clearly. Nothing here is fixed. Not mountains, not borders, not lives. As you leave Nepal, by road, by air, by memory, you carry something quieter than awe, a sense of compression, of extremes coexisting without resolution. Snow above jungle, silence above noise, departure above return. Nepal does not ask to be understood. It only insists on being encountered fully, with patience, with humility, with an acceptance that not everything will make sense. The road bends, the horizon lifts, and behind it all, the land continues its slow, relentless rise. Thanks for watching. See you soon. There are moments in Nepal when nothing is happening. No ceremony, no crisis, no arrival. Just waiting. Waiting for clouds to lift. Waiting for a bus that may or may not come. Waiting for paperwork to move from one desk to another. Waiting for a season to turn. This waiting is not passive. It is practice, learned early. You see it in tea shops along highways that dissolve into gravel. Men sit for hours, cups refilled endlessly, conversations looping without urgency. Time stretches. Nobody apologizes for it. Because here, rushing rarely helps. Take a mountain road. Not a famous one. Just a strip of dirt cut into a hillside. A truck approaches from the opposite direction. There is no space for both. Someone must reverse, sometimes for hundreds of meters. No horns, no shouting, just eye contact. A decision. Gravity makes the rules. This is how much of life functions in Nepal. Constraint first, choice second. In the high pastures during summer, herders move with animals the way water moves downhill. Slow, inevitable. Temporary shelters appear where grass allows, disappear when it does not. Children grow up knowing which slope faces the morning sun and which one kills crops with frost. School calendars bend to planting and harvest. Attendance is seasonal. Education is important, but food is immediate. No ideology competes with hunger. In winter, snow isolates entire valleys. Supplies run thin. Radios become lifelines. News arrives late and incomplete. Rumors fill the gaps. And yet, isolation also brings clarity. Priorities narrow. Noise falls away. You learn exactly how much you need. In cities, the opposite problem exists. Too much information. Too many signals. Phones buzz constantly. Global arguments arrive instantly. Local problems wait patiently. Young people scroll through lives that feel unreachable. Comparison creeps in. Restlessness follows. But even here, Nepal resists total acceleration. Power cuts interrupt evenings. Internet drops without warning. The present reasserts itself. Music spills from windows. Neighbors talk. Generators hum. Life slows by force. Language itself reflects this balance. Nepali conversation is indirect, softened. Requests come wrapped in politeness. Refusal is rarely blunt. Harmony matters because conflict is expensive in tight communities. Respect is hierarchical but flexible. Age commands deference, but competence earns it too. Social codes adapt faster than laws. In rural councils, disputes are still settled under trees. Evidence matters less than history. Who helped whom during floods? Who showed up when someone died? Memory is currency. Across generations, stories change shape. Grandparents speak of land reforms, of kings, of roads arriving for the first time. Parents speak of war years, uncertainty, fear. Children speak of visas, interviews, distant cities they know better online than in reality. Each generation carries a different Nepal. All of them true. Food ties them together. Meals are repetitive, deliberate. Rice, lentils, vegetables. Not exciting. Sustaining. Eating together is non-negotiable. Even when little is available, it is shared. To eat alone when others are present feels wrong. Almost dangerous. Hospitality is not generosity here. It is obligation, a moral constant. This extends to strangers too, especially in remote areas. A guest is protection against isolation, a break in routine, a carrier of news. Doors open easily. Expectations remain modest. But kindness does not erase hardship. it coexists with it. Alcoholism shadows many communities. So does debt. So does quiet despair when crops fail or children leave and do not return. Mental health remains a whispered subject. Endurance is praised. Silence rewarded. Cracks go unnoticed until they widen suddenly. Still, communities absorb shock better than outsiders expect, because they always have. Disaster response here is instinctive. Neighbors dig before aid arrives. Ropes appear. Tools circulate. Everyone knows their role without instruction. This is not heroism. It is habit. In the aftermath, life resumes quickly, not because loss is forgotten, but because stopping would invite more. Nepal does not romanticize suffering. It normalizes it. That may be the hardest thing to accept from the outside. The mountains are not spiritual teachers here. They are obstacles, resources, threats, shelter. Only later do metaphors attach. For those who live beneath them, mountains are weather systems and water towers. They dictate harvests. They decide survival. When avalanches fall or glaciers burst, there is no poetry in it, only accounting. How many homes lost? How many animals? How many days until aid? Yet even this accounting has limits. Some losses cannot be measured. Ancient footpaths erased. Sacred groves buried. Places remembered only by those who knew them. Memory becomes a final archive. As infrastructure expands, some of this memory fades. New roads bypass old centers. Trade shifts. Importance migrates. A village that once thrived on foot traffic becomes quiet overnight. Shops close. Youth leave. Silence settles where conversation once lived. Elsewhere, growth explodes. A crossroads becomes a town. A town becomes a city without planning permission. Nepal grows sideways as much as upward. Through all this change, the land keeps moving, slowly, relentlessly. The Himalayas are young mountains, still unstable, still testing the structures built upon them. Cracks in walls are watched carefully. A widening line is a warning. People learn to read buildings the way sailors read waves. Adaptation becomes literacy. In quieter moments, early morning, late evening, you sense something else beneath all this motion, a steadiness, not in institutions, not in politics, in people, a refusal to dramatize their own difficulty, a preference for continuity over conquest. Nepal does not seek to dominate its environment. It negotiates with it daily, and maybe that is why leaving feels unfinished, as if you have stepped out of a conversation mid-sentence. There is always another ridge, another valley, another version of the country that contradicts the last. You do not conclude Nepal. You pause it. Somewhere behind you, rivers continue cutting downward. Somewhere above, snow continues accumulating. Somewhere in between, life adjusts again. No closing argument. No final image. just a country still in motion. Thanks for watching. See you soon. At some point, you realize Nepal does not reveal itself through highlights. There is no single scene that explains the whole. Understanding comes sideways, in fragments. A conversation overheard on a night bus. A farmer's hands, permanently stained by soil. A pause in speech when politics comes up. The way people look toward the mountains before answering a difficult question. Movement here is rarely smooth. Journeys stretch. Distances deceive. A place that looks close on a map can take days to reach, if it can be reached at all. And when you finally arrive, you're often not sure what you were expecting. In the hills, houses are built facing inward. Courtyards matter more than facades. Privacy is collective. Life happens in shared spaces, washing areas, water taps, communal paths. You're always seen, and that visibility becomes accountability. There is little anonymity outside the cities. Your name travels faster than you do. Your family history arrives before you speak. This can feel heavy. It can also feel protective. Children grow up surrounded by cousins, neighbors, elders who correct them freely. Discipline is social. Praise is rare but meaningful. Belonging is never in question. In the cities, this web loosens. Freedom expands. So does loneliness. Young adults rent single rooms, eat alone, sleep with headphones on. They gain independence but lose the constant echo of community. Some thrive in the quiet. Others feel unmoored. Nepal's cities are not cruel. They are simply unfinished. Still negotiating what urban life should look like in a place built for foot travel and slow exchange. Sidewalks vanish unexpectedly. Street vendors claim whatever space is left. Traffic laws exist mostly as suggestion. And somehow, the system holds. Chaotic, loud, functional. People adapt instinctively. You learn when to push forward and when to wait, when to insist, when to step aside. Conflict avoidance is a national skill. Arguments dissolve into laughter. Anger softens into resignation. Saving face matters more than winning. This does not mean injustice is absent. It means it is absorbed quietly, redistributed unevenly. Marginalized communities carry more than their share. Caste, though officially abolished, still shadows opportunity. Access follows lineage more than law. Change is real but slow. And yet, there are moments when barriers break unexpectedly. A teacher who notices talent. A scholarship that shifts a trajectory. A mentor who intervenes at the right moment. Lives pivot on small acts here, more than on grand policy. In rural areas, aging is visible. Youth leave, elders remain. Fields are worked by those who should be resting. Hands shake, spines curve, but pride persists. Elders speak less now. Not because they have nothing to say, but because fewer people ask. Their knowledge of weather, of soil, of seasons feels outdated in a world of forecasts and apps. until the systems fail. Then everyone listens again. This pattern repeats everywhere. Old methods dismissed, new ones adopted, balance eventually restored. Nepal has lived through centuries of outside influence without losing its internal logic. Empires passed nearby. Ideologies arrived and receded. Borders hardened. The core endured. That core is not nationalism. It is continuity. Rituals continue even when belief weakens. Languages persist even when utility fades. Songs are sung whose meanings are half forgotten. The act itself becomes a reason. In mountain villages, time is marked by migration cycles that BY when herds move, BY when snow closes, passes. Calendars are secondary. In the plains, time bends around heat. Midday halts activity. Evenings stretch long. Work shifts to early morning and late night. Life rearranges itself around temperature. This sensitivity to environment shapes temperament. Patience is not philosophical here. IT is survival. When outsiders arrive, they often bring urgency, schedules, expectations. Nepal absorbs these briefly, then gently resists them. Projects run late. Meetings drift. Deadlines slide. Not out of incompetence, but because too many variables remain uncontrollable. Rain cannot be negotiated. Landslides do not respect timelines. Power outages ignore urgency. You learn to build flexibility into everything. Plans include margins for uncertain SO-do emotions. This flexibility extends identity. Nepal is comfortable holding contradiction. Modern and traditional, sacred and pragmatic, optimistic and weary. People will argue fiercely about politics, then share food without hesitation. They will criticize their country harshly, then defend it instantly against outsiders. Affection here is complex, layered. There is a quiet humor in how Nepalis talk about hardship. Jokes land softly. Irony is understated, self-pity rarely surfaces. When someone says, "It is like this," they are not giving up, they are acknowledging reality as a starting point. From that point, solutions emerge incrementally, rarely perfectly, often creatively. A broken bridge becomes a temporary crossing of planks and rope, that a closed road becomes a footpath, that a missing service becomes a community effort. This improvisation is not celebrated. IT is assumed. As evening falls across the hills, cooking fires appear one by one, the smoke drifts upward. The smell of lentils, garlic, wood. Dinner is simple, predictable, comforting. Families gather. Stories repeat. News is shared. Silence fills the gaps comfortably. Electricity may vanish and one panics. Candles appear. Phones are set aside. The night continues. In moments like this, Nepal feels complete, not solved, not perfected, but whole. The outside world presses in constantly. Through media, through money, through aspiration. Nepal does not reject IT. IT filters it. What fits is kept. What isn't slowly dissolves. This filtering takes time, generations, and so the country moves forward without spectacle, without slogans that fully stick, without certainty. It moves because people keep moving, because fields still need tending, because children still need raising, because tomorrow still arrives. When you finally step away from the hills, the noise, the waiting, you realize Nepal has changed you slightly, not dramatically, subtly. You find yourself less impatient, more observant, more tolerant of unfinished things. You begin to understand that stability does not always mean stillness, that resilience can look like repetition, that progress can be quiet. Nepal does not ask for admiration. IT does not perform. It simply continues, layered, strained, adaptive, carrying its people across impossible terrain, one ordinary day at a time. Thanks for watching. See you soon.